My name is Caedmon David, or as spirit animals call me, Mr. Cow. Today we're taking a closer look at the episode of Star Trek Voyager called The Cloud. In this episode, we get this great line.
Set a new course. There's coffee in that nebula.
So, with that being said, let's jump right in. So this is gonna be a little bit of a smaller review. I don't really have a lot to say about this episode. I feel as though most Star Trek episodes fall into 3 or 4 categories. We have the really good episodes, the really bad sort of episodes. Then we have episodes that are almost really good. But then we have episodes like this that aren't really bad, they aren't really good, they're just really weird. I feel like this episode, they had the story of entering into the nebula, and it ends up being a creature, but then they realized the episode was only like 10 minutes long, and they were like, oh, we have to add a bunch of stuff. So then we end up with spirit animals and holodecks and Harry Kim saying that he remembers being in the womb.
I remember being in my mother's womb.
Tom Paris being a creepy pervert. Again.
I always had a thing about the French.
And the French always had a thing about you, Monsieur Thomas.
This is Ricky. I include her in all my holo programs.
I don't know, this episode is just all over the place. And to be fair, it's fine to have an episode like this. I think this is actually a good placement for this episode, where they're trying to establish the crew dynamics and all that sort of stuff. However, it kind of feels weird, because this episode, every direction it decides to go is quite strange. Most notably, we have the previously mentioned animal guide part with Janeway, where she goes and talks to a lizard, perhaps foreshadowing that she might turn into a lizard and have children with Tom Paris later on. I don't think that actually has anything to do with that. I just found it an interesting coincidence, if you will. But then we also have Tom Paris's holodeck. We have Neelix being terrible as usual. This time he gets mad at Janeway and for going back into the nebula, and then comes back up bringing everyone snacks to eat while they fix the issue?
Time for refreshment.
It's just awkward. I kind of see the character beats that they were trying to go with here, where he sort of thinks to himself, oh, I'm mad about this situation, but then I'm gonna be like, it's not really fair for me to be mad, so I'm gonna actually do something to try and help in my own way. He also declares himself the morale officer, which I kind of hate. Neelix should be the opposite of a morale officer, making sure that everyone feels terrible about being on this ship, because they're on it with an alien who behaves like a 9-year-old. I don't like Neelix, in case you couldn't tell. But not everything in this episode is bad. we get some sort of fun interaction between B'Elanna and the Doctor, which sort of starts the idea or the theme that B'Elanna is gonna program the Doctor and work with him. And I like that. I like those two characters quite a bit. I feel like there could be some interesting story interaction with them there. But at the end of the day, this episode is a good idea. It's a good idea to have an episode that are mostly just showing the crew's dynamics and how they interact. However, this episode is kind of the worst version of that. Or, most certainly, the weirdest version. Now, with that being said, what did you think of this episode? Were you on board with the spirit animal story? Did you like Tom Paris being a creepy guy, including multiple women who want to make out with him in his holodeck? Who was your favorite character this episode? Do you dislike this episode, and why? I want to know all of your thoughts in the comments below. But with that being said, that's where I'm gonna close this video. So, class dismissed. And as always, live long and prosper, my friend. Today we're taking a closer look at the episode of I almost said Star Wars Voyager. That was really weird.